he does a really good job, in my opinion, of like utilizing liberal frameworks in a way that becomes like impossible to counter. Equal rights and representation to all citizens is a foundational liberal principle. Every liberal in their heart of hearts believes this, okay? Even if they don't literally believe it, okay? Even if they, get wishy-washy with it, in that moment of recognition, they have to say they agree with it. They have to say that they believe with it. Anyway, we're going to start off with the Zohran momentum that is taking place, okay? The Zohran momentum that's taking place in the New York City mayoral race. As you guys know, the people's princess is not I, but actually is Zohran Mamdani, friend of the show Zohran. The Zohranmentum, it's real, it's happening. He has cut away at the 30-point lead that Andrew Cuomo had in the New York City's mayoral race primaries that are happening. The Democratic Party mayoral primaries are taking place in New York City very soon, as a matter of fact. And it is ranked choice voting. And even with ranked choice voting, Andrew Cuomo, once he dropped his hat into the ring and said, I'm running for mayor of New York, I'm black, I'm gay, I'm Muslim, I'm trans, I'm Andrew Cuomo, I killed your grandparents, and I want to be mayor of New York. Everybody in New York seemingly was like, I recognize that last name. Cuomo's are a dynasty in New York politics. I'll vote for them. Because I guess everyone is very stupid and everyone's basically a drone. However, with an immense amount of ground game, a relatively lesser known New York State Assembly member by the name of Zohran Mamdani came out of nowhere seemingly and revealed his political convictions, wore his heart on his sleeve, and was endlessly charismatic. And as a consequence of that, and with the incredible ground game and the real momentum that he had, he was able to make a name for himself and cut away from the rest of the pile and become a serious contender to Andrew Cuomo. At first, when Cuomo came in, he basically had a 30-point, 40-point lead. As of yesterday, some of the latest polls that came out, some that came out before the AOC endorsement, others that came out after the AOC endorsement, Andrew Cuomo and Zohran are dead to rights, head to head, locked in. Zohran is only trailing behind Andrew Cuomo by 2 points, with Andrew Cuomo looking at 51% in the final round of ranked choice voting, with Zohran getting all the way up to 49%. And of course, because, our media is so insane, a big part of the way that people are trying to hammer Zohran, who is Muslim and a socialist, and also a massive advocate, a very outspoken advocate for Palestinian emancipation, okay? People are hammering him on the Israel stuff. They just constantly keep bringing up Israel in situations where it's not pertinent to whether or not he'd be a good mayor for New York. But regardless of that, here's some new information. New York City DSA came out with a release. Says, far too often Jewish New Yorkers who stand for justice are told they are not real Jews, but our Jewish members know demanding leadership that puts working class people first is living our values. That's why Jewish DSA members will be ranking Zohran Mamdani number 1 on 6/24. June 24th is when the date of the New York Democratic mayoral race primary happens. But of course, early voting starts, I believe, in 3 days. I think it starts on the 14th, right? Am I right about that? Yeah. But yeah, there's a new poll that came out as well that's showing once again that this community was right, and that we've always been right, and that we should be unafraid to say the truth about Israel. And as long as you keep pushing, as long as you keep up the pressure, you will become undeniable. You will become unavoidable. Okay? Here it is. Far too often, Jewish New Yorkers who stand for justice are told they are not real Jews. Let's take a look at the New York City DSA video.
I'm a Jewish New Yorker.
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 And I'm ranking Zohran number 1 in the Democratic primary on June 24th. Again and again,
Jews and socialists are targeted, scapegoated, and villainized by the fascist far right and their corrupt cronies.
Even in 2025, when we stand up for the right to free speech,
For the human rights of our Muslim siblings.
For due process under the law.
We're told by some that we're
Dude, I love the old DSA heads. Like, they've been at this for so goddamn long. Sorry, it's just like, it's just something. When I see the old DSA heads, it's like, I have the same reverence and respect that I do for like the Code Pink. Okay, the ladies that do Code Pink, they're amazing.
we're told by some that we're self-hating.
We're told we're traitors.
Not real Jews.
But what Andrew Cuomo doesn't know is that the struggle for freedom and justice is central to Judaism and has been for thousands of years.
My Judaism informs my values, my
This is so funny because like there will be people who are super aggro and be like, this is Jewish exceptionalism. It's like, dude, they're trying to win an election. Okay, shut the up before you start being like, oh, who cares? Whatever. You're stupid. I don't want to hear from you. See yourself out of this business. Go back to protesting. You're important when it comes to that sort of stuff. But when it comes to electoralism, sit this out. It's fine. You think it's a bourgeois election. You think it's not significant. So why have this level of animosity? You know what I mean? Don't. Just sit it out. It's not for you. It's okay. It's not for you. We'll have other conversations about, building the vanguard or something like that. But, don't get involved in this if you're not interested or invested in the bourgeois elections, okay?
socialist politics, and my vote.
A lot of mayoral candidates are claiming that they stand with Jewish New Yorkers.
but when they share their vision of the city, it's one of division, hate, and corruption.
A New York City where the mayor's friends profit from
Sean the Black, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream, brother.
their connections, while Trump's goon squads can disappear anyone they think is un-American.
I trust Zohran Mamdani to stand up for me and my Jewish community.
For all New Yorkers.
As a Jewish DSA member, I'm proud to stand alongside people of all faiths to say no to Andrew Cuomo's corruption.
And yes to Zohran Mamdani's vision for the New York City we all deserve.
That means yes to fast and free buses, universal childcare, and freezing the rent. If Andrew Cuomo thinks that makes me less of a Jew,
That's just one more reason why he's unfit to represent us.
paid for by Zohran for NYC.
Yeah. Fantastic. Also, here is some incredible information. This is an all-time low for the Israelis and an all-time high for the Palestinians. The Quinnipiac University poll began asking this question in 2001. Voters were asked whether their sympathies lie more with the Israelis or more with the Palestinians based on what they know about the situation in the Middle East. 37% of voters say the Israelis, while 32% say the Palestinians, and 31% did not offer an opinion. This is an all-time low for the Israelis and an all-time high for the Palestinians since the Quinnipiac University poll began asking this question of registered voters in December 2001. Among Republicans, 64% say the Israelis, while 7% say the Palestinians, and 29% did not offer an opinion. Among Democrats, 12% say the Israelis, while 60% say the Palestinians, and 29% did not offer an opinion. Majority Israeli is sad, though? No. That's not a majority. That's a plurality, okay? That's number one. And that's all voters, okay? All voters. Do you not see how unimaginably invested the Republicans are in offering sympathies to Israel and not offering any sympathy to the Palestinians? Okay? Obviously, that kind of distorts the overall numbers a little bit, don't you think? I am going to litigate this over and over again. I'm going to repeat this over and over again. Among Democrats, 12% say Israelis is where their sympathy lies with. 60% say Palestinians. 29% did not offer an opinion. Among independents, 38% say Israelis, while 30% say Palestinians. 31% did not offer an opinion. Okay? That is crazy. Chatters are blind if they are not taking these results in the context of 70 years of pro-Israel propaganda from both parties and only 2 years of Palestinian justice movement. Exactly. This right here is what I've been saying, that this issue has officially become polarized. It has become a partisan issue. This is AIPAC's worst nightmare. This is the Israel lobby's worst nightmare because they have been pumping Democrats with incredible amounts of money, specifically to avoid this reality that this is uniparty. Okay? This is supposed to be a uniparty issue. It is no longer seen as a uniparty issue. This is no longer uniparty, at least in the minds and the eyes of the Democratic Party's voters. Okay? This is what I've been saying. I kept repeating over and over again in the past election cycle that the Democrats should actually at least tackle the issue of Israel from a partisan framework. If they don't care about the humanity of the Palestinians, they have to tackle this from a partisan framework at the very least. To be like, why do the Republicans care so much about giving unlimited amounts of money to a foreign country that's doing a lot of violence? If you don't want to say genocide, you can say they're doing a lot of war crimes, for example. You know what I mean? There's plenty of avenues for cowardly politicians to make a name for themselves in a perfectly sociopathic, cold, calculated manner. Trump approval on the issues from the Quinnipiac poll. Immigration, 54% to 43% disapprove. The economy, 56 to 40% disapprove. Israel-Hamas conflict, 52 to 35 disapprove. Russia-Ukraine war, 57 to 34 disapprove. Trade, 57 to 38 disapprove. Deportations, 56 to 40% disapprove. University, 54 to 37% disapprove. He's in the red for everything, right? This means that they're disapproving, right? Not that they're approving. I think, or am I misunderstanding it? Yeah, no, this is, I mean, it wouldn't make sense if it was like, if it was like 34% approving of Russia-Ukraine or 38% approving of trade. I mean, 57% approving of trade. Yeah. Trump is in the red. Do you worry that Democrats who value Zionism more than their Democrat identity will leave the party altogether? Speaking from personal experience, there are those who think the party is way too far left now. I mean, people claim that that is a problem all the time. Okay, Trump's approval, according to Quinnipiac, okay, went from 46 to 43 to officially now 46% approval, 43% disapproval, to 45% approval, 49% disapproval, to 42% approval, 53% disapproval in March, and to its highest point of disapproval now since the beginning of his reign to 54% disapproval, 38% approval. Now, that number is still higher, I think. His approval numbers can go lower than 38, certainly. His approval numbers can still go lower than 38. He's in the red, obviously. He's in the red on all of his issues, including the issues that were supposed to be incredibly popular, issues that allowed him to win the election. Immigration is at 54% disapproval, as opposed to 43% approval. Make no mistake. As I told you time and time again, this is a direct consequence of, one, people starting to realize how certain things look when they actually experience it, as opposed to the theoretical lies that they believe in from the administration. People might think that they want mass deportations, but when mass deportations come knocking down their doorstep, they don't like it. They don't like the way it looks. They don't like the way it feels. But these numbers of disapproval would be significantly higher if the Democrats actually had a backbone. Make no mistake, this is organic. This disapproval is simply organic, okay? Deportations have a 56% disapproval rating as opposed to the 40% approval rating. You're losing. I'm losing. I mean, I'm not a part of the Democratic Party. I'm not a part of the Republican Party. I don't know what do you think I'm a politician or something? Also, do you not understand how numbers work? Also, why can't any Republican ever write correctly? Like they don't know how to do grammar. English is my second language. Why are you guys so stupid? Why? Every damn day. It's the homeschooling. I just don't get it. Cleanly? What? Okay. Well, good luck, chatter. It's really frustrating because like we're currently looking at numbers that immediately disprove what that chatter thinks is happening. And he's like, nah, I don't believe it. It must be fake news. You're still losing. And I guess part of that is because of like Twitter and the echo chambers that Republicans have where they unironically believe their own bullshit. Like, it doesn't end up making, I don't know, Democrats or independents or third parties look at the situation and go, yeah, I agree. I think that the Republicans are doing a great job. All it does is make you think that all it does is basically offer you a false sense of confidence about the way that the administration's actions are being received broadly, right? I mean, we are not winning either, are we? No, of course not. But make no mistake. Make no mistake. This right here is exactly what I was talking about. That like people will start showing discontent. People are going to get angry at these actions. When Trump promised a whole lot about fixing the economy and then refused to do so, of course people are going to start disapproving of it. When Trump promised immigration, militant immigration and deportations, and then people started experiencing said deportations and the resistance and the reaction to said deportations, and people started getting mad, all of a sudden, people don't like it. People don't like Trump's immigration policies. They don't like the idea of like black bagging people for the crime of speaking out against Israel, for example. They don't like the fact that only small dick energy people care about polls. Okay, good one. Got it. Okay, well, I mean, I guess you're right, because Donald Trump does care a lot about polls. He freaks out about these polls all the time. He constantly says they're fake. The polls are fake. Do you agree or disagree that Israel is committing a genocide in the Gaza Strip? 38% agree, 26% disagree, 36% are unsure. It is crazy that people are still unsure at this point. It is also even crazier that people disagree. But God damn it, I'm so shocked. It's like been 19, almost 20 months. God damn. Anyway, Legger is a Canadian poster. Oh, this is a Canadian poll. Here.
Lastly, while a mayor is not in charge of you,
going back to the Zohran thing though, and how this pertains to the Zohran race, like the media is fighting a battle that is a lost cause, especially for the Democratic side. Okay? And that is precisely the reason why you don't see a lot of penalties that Zohran is experiencing as a consequence of bravely standing 10 toes down and saying the truth. Okay? Because the population overall recognizes the reality, and the polls show that people are aware of the reality.
U.S. foreign policy, there is one area that I would love some clarification on from Zohran. He has called for the arrest of Israel's democratically elected leader if he sets foot in New York. And not just him, but anyone who has committed war crimes, which could be 1,000 people in the IDF, depending on how they want to define it. So I'd love some clarification on that.
We're going to go to Mr. Walden, and then we'll come back to Assemblymember Mamdani. You can go first. Great. Well, and let me just, we'll give you like 30, 60 seconds to respond. But I also just want to hone in. Assemblymember, you've spoken specifically about previously supporting boycotts. Will you continue to support the boycott of Israel if you are elected mayor? And you can also respond to what Mr. Tilson brought up. Yeah, you can go for it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll answer Mr. Tilson's question after I answer yours. And Mr. Tilson, feel free to let me know if I don't answer it sufficiently. I'm someone that what I've said throughout the course of this campaign is that wherever Eric Adams' administration or another administration has taken us out of compliance with international law, I would bring New York City back into that compliance. My focus will always be on that affordability, but that is the consistency around that compliance. And I think
this is great, because this is part of the reason why while we personally, in a community as radical as this one, might not care about like these liberal institutions and what they have to say, whether it be like NGOs or human rights groups or international organs of justice, it actually plays a major role in offering permission to politicians who are brave enough to say the truth. Zohran is perfectly utilizing the permission given to him by authorities that liberals are supposed to be on board with. This plays a big role in people understand the dynamic. Okay? I feel like you should care. Human Rights Watch, and they do important work. Yes, they do. And I agree. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch all do really important work. But they also sometimes fall into the American foreign policy interest category as well. There are moments, instances like with their coverage on Israel, where they're actually directly antagonistic to American foreign policy. But in most circumstances, their coverage of war crimes and whatnot, their coverage of like America needs them so they can point to all these other countries and say, this is why we have to do violent intervention. Do you understand? This is the reason why people have expressed discontent. I understand their importance. I talk about their importance all the time, but I also recognize that a lot of these NGOs do play that role in the American foreign policy apparatus of justifying American intervention by basically saying like, oh, look at these crimes. Like there's both sides are doing stuff. Both sides are doing bad things. And there have been instances where they have actually brought up false information as well in direct correspondence with the foreign policy goals of the United States of America. Is USAID far deeper into the imperialist part? I mean, yes, USAID is literally a State Department operation. So, of course, USAID is not separate. The U.S. government will use any source to justify intervention and stuff. So how can the media and NGOs, etc., work to reveal the truth without letting it be used as propaganda? It's impossible. It's also a, how do I say this? It's also dual use almost, like, because America lets them operate and offers them, the American government lets them operate and offers them some semblance of legitimacy because at times of need, they can use their involvement in research as a point to prove why intervention is a necessity. But on the other side, these organizations, in order to maintain credibility, have to also do this kind of thing where they criticize Israel when they're very obviously doing war crimes and doing genocide and ethnic cleansing. Because if they don't do that, then everyone will be like, no one trusts you anymore. Like, look at the ADL as an example of an institution that has like dropped the ball on even for an institution that has dropped the ball as a civil rights organization operating in inside of U.S. boundaries with their hyper focus on anti-Israel sentiment and defending Israel. There's a reason why like it takes a long time, but like liberal institutions no longer trust the ADL in the ways that they used to. Like they'll still offer a slot to Jonathan Greenblatt, but like think about it this way: the very fact that like I have not been completely tarred and feathered and banned from every platform is one, because Jonathan Greenblatt is lying when he says I'm a vicious anti-Semite, but also in the past, if he were to say that, regardless of my actual position, I think that would have a lot more motion. Like when the truth rarely aligns with the U.S. State Department interest, for instance, of war crimes from Assad, or all of that was true, but it was used for a call of intervention. All of that was true, but it was used to call. Yes, exactly. No, that's what I mean. Exactly. That's precisely what I'm talking about. But also, anyway, let's get back to Zohran for now. The reason why I brought this up, the reason why I brought up the importance of like in 2021, when all of these human rights groups actually all in unison collectively openly revealed that Israel is an apartheid structure, even though it was an apartheid for years and years prior to that, that opened up a new permission structure for those who are in advocacy, those who are involved in Palestinian advocacy, to be able to point back to an institution of authority. So when international instruments of justice also come to that conclusion, it matters in the advocacy side of things. You might get mad and say, well, that's not changing the dynamic at all. But these things, unfortunately, are very bloody affairs and take a fuck ton of time to like detangle billions of dollars of propaganda and a sophisticated network of influence, especially with grassroots mobilization, is going to be a mountainous Herculean task. It's going to take a very long time, and it has. As a matter of fact, things have changed quite dramatically and reversed in an incredibly short period of time, only because of the intensity of Israel's injustice, only because of the violence that Israel subjected the Palestinians to, that people can see on social media. Was at this event. It was a fairly progressive synagogue, but most people there were lib. Myself and 10 others cheered for Zohran and some booed. I was astonished how well Zohran stood for his values in a digestible way for a relatively progressive Israel audience. Yeah.
Ultimately, the focus of our mayor should be on the issues of New York City at hand. Now, to the question.
He does a really good job, in my opinion, of like utilizing liberal frameworks in a way that becomes in a way that becomes like impossible to counter. Like when he says, "Hey, I believe." I'm an advocate for Israel's existence as long as it is a state that offers equal rights and representation to all citizens. Equal rights and representation to all citizens is a foundational liberal principle. Every liberal in their heart of hearts believes this, okay? Even if they don't literally believe it, okay? Even if they get wishy-washy with it, in that moment of recognition, they have to say they agree with it. They have to say that they believe with it. They abide by those standards, because the alternative to that is to say, no, I don't think there should be equal civil liberties to all Palestinians, or to a certain group that is declared an underclass. Okay, that it's impossible for a liberal to argue against that unless they just like openly decide, no, separate but equal is good. Oh, I like segregation, especially when we're talking about an election where politicians are directly speaking in the Democratic primary to liberal voters. Okay? Liberal voters will not react positively to any politician that says a foreign state that gets unlimited amounts of money from our government has the right to do segregation. Not just de facto segregation, but de jure segregation, like legalized segregation and apartheid. It's not something that liberals are going to abide by. Liberal voters are going to abide by unless they are insanely invested in Israel existing in the way that it currently does as an apartheid and as a Jewish supremacist ethno-state. Why do we need liberals when they will always work against us? I don't know, because everyone at some point, liberalism is a monoculture. Even Republicans are liberals at the end of the day. And not only that, but there's a ton more people who self-identify as liberals in the United States of America than there are socialists, and yourself included, probably a liberal at some point before you realize that there is a distinction between liberalism and socialist values or leftist values or anti-imperialist values. So that's why de jure, not de jure. Okay, sorry. The overwhelming majority of audience members in here were at some point in their lives either liberals or literally Republicans. Okay?
Question around Benjamin Netanyahu. I was asked what I would do after he had just been issued an arrest warrant by the International Court of Justice. My answer is the same whether we are speaking about Vladimir Putin or Netanyahu. I think that this should be a city in compliance with international law. And we have seen other countries across the world who are signatories to the ICC state that they would honor that same request, be it
Hell
Canada
yes.
or other countries.
Hitting out the Vladdy Poo side too. Excellent. Excellent. Really drive home that, either these courts matter or they don't, but we can't cast aside the importance of these decisions being made by the ICC, because guess what? Vladdy Poo, big bad guy. He is the big bad, Adolf Putler. I'm here to enforce the law, to protect my citizens of New York, to protect my voters.
Countries in Europe. And their honoring of it meant that Netanyahu did not travel there. And I think it is important to show leadership in a time when it is sorely missing. And there are some who may say that the United States is not a party to the International Criminal Court. Thank you, Whitney. I knew you were going there. And to that I say that there are times when courage is required. There was a time when it was not legal for same-sex couples to be married in this country. And still, then Mayor Gavin Newsom issued marriage certificates for those very couples in defiance of that legislation. What I am trying to showcase is a belief that international law is something that should be honored, should be respected, and something that we should actually bring our city into compliance with.
And just to be very, very clear, so yes, you will continue to support the boycott of Israel as...
I can't hear you.
I said, yeah, just to be very, very clear. So yes, you will continue to support the boycott of Israel if you are elected mayor.
What I would do is ensure that any of my actions moving... Sorry. Let me know when you... That any of my actions moving forward as the mayor of New York City would not be in violation of any of those international laws, and ensure that compliance is at the heart of it. That's all I would focus on.
Mr. Walden.
Okay, let me just...
So anyway, this is, you know, good answers overall, great answers overall within the confines of liberal frameworks. Obviously, he is trying to win an election in the Democratic Party primary for the New York mayoral race. So, you know, he's leaning into his audience here, and I think doing a good job without actually casting aside his values. Okay. Why is it always about Israel? Okay, this one was literally in a synagogue specifically for addressing Jewish voter concerns. Okay, like, you know, Puerto Rican statehood would probably be a question if you were to conduct a similar thing with all of the primary mayoral candidates in a I don't know, like a Puerto Rican cultural center. That's gonna be a question, right? Like, it's just, it makes sense. Like if he was talking specifically to the Puerto Rican community of New York, okay, and that came out as a question in that regard, that makes sense, right? It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense if you are asking this question in a normal mayoral race on television, and this hyper focus on Israel is like stupid. But obviously there are. This isn't to say that there aren't Jewish New Yorkers who care about Israel. Of course there are. And therefore, in this specific setting, it makes sense as to why this question would at least come up. Okay, the synagogue is in New York, not Israel. It's a mayoral race, not even a federal position. Guys, in the grand scheme of things, in the New York mayoral primary race, this is considered irrelevant, and I understand that. But the idea that it's not going to come up at all when you're literally speaking to specifically Jewish New Yorkers inside of a synagogue where the setting is about all of the concerns that Jewish New Yorkers have, Israel will be included in this conversation. It makes sense. Like, that is, you know, of course it's going to come up. That makes fucking total sense. Yeah, there are more Jews in New York than in Tel Aviv, dude. What are we talking about? This isn't to say that all Jews care about Israel and this is the number one thing. It's the number one priority. But in a sea of questions about like rent and free transit, like the idea that Israel's not going to come up in that situation is silly. Of course it's going to come up. Anyway. And it's also especially important because like the United Nations gathers in New York City. So the next mayor of New York City saying that they will abide by the International Criminal Court is a major point. You know what I mean? Especially when there's an active warrant out for the arrest of some global leaders that would potentially participate in the United Nations gathering. Feel me? Smell me? Understand where I'm coming from? Also, Rabbi Indig of Satmar tells the New York Times he's considering adding Zohran Mamdani to his slate of endorsements. According to my conversation, he told me that he's not an anti-Semite. As mayor, we wouldn't have a problem with him. Okay? Let me tell you something, okay? B and H. Officially back on my good list. Okay? Satmar is B and H, right? Am I crazy? Yeah, Satmar Hasidism is anti-Zionist. B&H is a New York chain owned by B and H, not B-N-H. B and H. It is the OG. Like I've bought many things from B&H Photo. What's the connection? I think it's owned by It's owned by the same dudes. Like, not this rabbi specifically, but I was just making a joke. I think it's owned by Satmar Hasidim, right? Yeah, it is. It is Satmar. I'm pretty sure. Mayor Eric Adams may be running an unusually low-key race for the re-election in New York, opting out of blah, 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 blah. Mr. Adams' allies have indicated they believe he would have a better chance of winning the general election if Zohran Mamdani, Democratic Socialist, was now polling in second place. At the same time, Mr. Adams has used his mayoral powers to make policy pronouncements that seem designated to resonate with some Orthodox Jews. He signed an executive order recognizing the International Holocaust Remember Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism and created the mayor's office to combat anti-Semitism to address the spike. He's going around and people that ask for support for the general election, said Rabbi Moshe Indig, a leader of one faction of the Satmar Hasidic group in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. He would love that everyone just ignore the primary and wait until the fall. The mayor's efforts have had mixed results. Mr. Cuomo, the race's frontrunner, has rolled out a series of endorsements from important Orthodox rabbis in Brooklyn and Queens in recent days, but lost out on others. What is this? Pam Bondi issues warning to businesses after DOJ issues sues over copy shop menu. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi issued a warning to American business after... Oh, yeah, I saw this earlier. This is the guys that made the sweet Sinwar, right? In honor and tribute to the leader of Hamas, Bondi said on Fox News on Wednesday, you can't do that. First of all, you literally can, okay? The idea that you can't do that is wrong, okay? You literally can do that, okay? Should you? I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't. But if the conversation is, can you do that? The answer is 100% fuck yes, okay? That quite literally is a thing you can do in America. The notion, there are Republican-backed Supreme Court initiatives that directly protect the right to do just that, okay? It is so funny. They also had iced intifada. Yeah, I saw. I know only because Dylan Saba went there, I think, and he was canceled subsequently for purchasing iced tea intifada or a sweet Sinwar, one of those two. I remember stop anti-Semitism and stuff, like yelling at Dylan, being like, "Oh, I can't believe you're anti-Semite," whatever. Okay. It was sweet Sinwar, right? Yeah, that's what he got. He got a sweet Sinwar. Took a photo with it. Anyway, dude, Republicans collectively deciding that every single thing that they supposedly care about is actually completely irrelevant, cast it aside, like free speech. What's next, dude? Are they gonna... I feel like if there were Muslim advocacy groups that armed themselves in the same way that like the Black Panthers did, Republicans would be like, no more guns out in public. Okay, excuse me, we need gun control and we need it now. We need gun control and we need it right now. We need it yesterday. These libtards don't want gun control. I mean, that is ironic because Ronald Reagan literally did this in the state of California when he was the governor, when the Black Panther Party marched to the state capitol, exercising their Second Amendment rights to openly have arms. And that famously was an instance where both the NRA and also Ronald Reagan immediately implemented gun control. One with sweet Sinwar in honor. You can't do that. Also, we sue them. We're going to stop this from happening anywhere in the country. If you're doing this, we're coming after you. Attorney Glenn Ketton, representing the Jerusalem Coffee House, told Newsweek they rejected the DOJ's allegations. Neither the owner nor staff are anti-Semitic, and they would not tolerate anti-Semitism in their cafe. The lawsuit comes amid the Trump administration's efforts to tackle anti-Semitism across the country. The DOJ argues that the Civil Rights Act may have been violated if the shop owners refused service based on customers' Jewish identities. Okay, if customers were refused service for being Jewish, that is a violation. And the federal government has every right, if not the responsibility, for the record. If they do that, then this is appropriate. Now, it's ironic coming from the Republican Party. Make no mistake. Ironic coming from the Republican Party, considering, like I said, they have actively made this a major culture war issue as far as like, you can't force a baker to bake a gay cake or whatever okay? They're the anti-gay cake party, okay? Having said that, from my own moral consideration, I consider this unjustifiable, and if they have done that, then that is completely inappropriate. and they do deserve to be sued, for the record. Having said that, however, this could be a very damaging precedent if the DOJ were to consider defending Israel to be a protected identity. Okay? On top of concerns about menu items, the lawsuit filed Monday also alleges that the coffee shop denied services to customers wearing the Star of David, something the owner strongly denies. According to the criminal complaint filed in the U.S. District Court of the Northern District of California, one customer visited the coffee shop while scoping out a nearby venue for a workplace event. He was wearing a baseball cap with the Hebrew words, okay, dude, am Israeli Chai. The people of Israel live. A man sitting outside the shop allegedly asked if he was a Jew and a Zionist before accusing the customer of being complicit in Israel's actions following the October 7 attack, then left. Oh my Lord. Dude, this literally happened in Australia. Why does this happen so much? Dudes will straight up be wearing the IDF dog tag, walk into a very clearly antagonistic institution, specifically to be like, oh, I am being victimized. You are not serving me because I love Israel. When the customer returned to the event, the man was working behind the counter. He told the customer that he is not welcome in the shop, with the owner, Fatih Abdurrahim Harara, then allegedly joining, yelling Jew and Zionist at him in the street. That's up. On another occasion, another Jewish customer allegedly told Harara to leave his 5-year-old son after being asked if he was a Zionist. Okay, this dude's a little bit wild, okay? The lawsuit also alleges that for the first anniversary of the Hamas attacks, the coffee shop introduced 2 new menu items, iced intifada, in appearing to reference Intifada, and sweet Sinwar, in apparent reference to the former leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar. Harara denies the allegations against him in the coffee shop, with his attorney telling Newsweek that the lawsuit was a political stunt. Attorney Glenn Keaton, in his statement to Newsweek, this lawsuit is part of the Trump administration's efforts to silence voices for Palestinian human rights by falsely branding those voices anti-Semitic. The customer who was asked to leave harassed the customers. He has a history of inciting conflict, and this is just another stage incident for him to bring attention to himself. The video of that not happening. Wait, oh, is this it? Is this the incident?
This gentleman asked me to leave because of my hat.
You're being this is a violent hat, and you need to leave.
My hat is
it's violent. It's violent.
I'm
you need
sorry.
to leave.
This man cannot ask me to leave because
I
of my
can.
hat.
It's my business, bro.
No, he can't.
It's my business.
You can't refuse
someone. I can. Yes, I can.
You can't refuse service for a protected class, and he's asking me to leave because of a Magen David Adom, which is a Magen David, which is a Jewish star. He can't ask me to leave because of my religion. He can't ask me to leave
because of that.
Yes, you are. You said,
are you a Zionist?
You said.
Are you a Zionist?
I don't have to identify myself by my belief. Excuse me,
get out.
Please back away from me.
Get out.
Yes, he does if he's asking me to leave based on a protected class. Are you really, like, I'm sitting here quiet. We were sitting here quietly playing, I don't, you're wrong, call the police. I don't, they're wrong, call the police. You're going to have a lawsuit. I don't, you're wrong, call the police.
Yeah.
This is from October 29, 2024.
I'll call the cops on you, bro.
Do it.
Even though it's against my ethos, I'm gonna call the cops
on you.
Do it.
Call the cops and you can get an education today about your...
Jonathan Hirsch, wearing the Star of David hat, kicked out of Jerusalem Coffee House in North Oakland by owner. Oakland Police, California, investigating whether this was a hate crime. Update, saying he was targeted like the man wearing a Star of David hat. Michael Radis, who is also Jewish, sues Jerusalem Coffee House owner via ADL Benesh Law, saying he was harassed, followed, and refused service on worry somebody may get hurt someday. Radis tells me. Update, Jonathan Hirsch is also suing. Justice Department sues owners of Jerusalem in Oakland, saying 2 Jewish customers Star David has were discriminated against and ordered to leave. Cafe also had a drink named after Intifada and inverted pink triangles on the wall. Suit says. The owner seems a little bit unhinged. I mean, at first I thought he was being unhinged. I think, like, you have to be more careful in this situation. Like, you just can't come across as, like, even leaning into agitators. Like, this person, if you think this person went into the coffee shop specifically to be like, oh, I just wanted coffee, and I can't believe that you're not serving me coffee for being Jewish. Like, if you think that that's what's going on, you're silly. Okay? That's not what's going on here. And it's identical to the same thing that happened. It's identical to the same thing that happened in Australia. So no, I'm not going to sit here and act like this is a totally out of nowhere instance of Maybe he thought it was Jewish because it was called Jerusalem. I don't know, probably just agitating. Come on, dude. The coffee shop, he said the coffee shop has iced intifada and sweet sinwar. I'm pretty sure he knew the coffee shop was not a Jewish coffee shop. No, he's an agitator. And this is literally not only is it is he an agitator, everyone will of course use this because it's a perfect opportunity to present it as like Jews are being harassed, Jewish people are being severe victims to like anti-Semitic crimes, and many people that want to chime in, many people that want to like find another instance of this will use this as an opportunity and will act as though they're oblivious to the other to the nuances of the situation. I just think we can't have it both ways. I don't want people with kafiyas getting kicked out either. I know, except there is no protection for there is no protection of any sort for Muslims. That is the reality. And this is deliberately an attempt to, I think, consider defense of Israel as a key tenet of Judaism, so that anyone that actually criticizes Israel is now like, this is a jerry-rigging of the laws that exist. Because they can't do it through the legislative body, they're trying to work their way from the court system to create a new precedent, I think. If that makes sense. Yeah, you are allowed to get kicked out for political views. We have to embrace and front that view. Letting them conflate that with religious views is the things we need to clarify is not occurring. Exactly. What is this? I just mentioned Zionism in a comment and it got auto-mounted. Yes, because it is auto-mounted. Because it is, Twitch enforces a new restriction. I should be able to wear my Star of David necklace without being asked if I'm a Zionist, but I blame Israel for that, not misguided people whose families being killed and having Stars of David drawn on their mass graves. Yeah. But I don't think that was like I don't think that this was a totally innocent party walking into a coffee shop and being like, oh my God, I'm being harassed. They figured out I'm Jewish and they're kicking me out, even though that is what everyone will argue. Everyone will cynically argue this as it makes its way through the Department of Justice to set a horrifying precedent. I hope that there is at least like some reasonable judges remaining that end up getting their hands on this and recognize the dangerous precedent it might set and throw it out. Anyway. Did that guy have a history of agitating? No. The guy that had a history of agitating was the dude that did this in Australia. He did it like a couple different times, but luckily he looks like Bizarro Felix. No, I don't think he looks like Felix. Felix is way more handsome. If it wasn't that specific guy and it wasn't an instigator, should the same happen as someone wearing a small Star of David necklace who genuinely wants a coffee? No, I don't think so at all. I don't even think that like if you're wearing, look, I don't even think that you should be asked if you're a Zionist or not, even if you are wearing a Star of David. This is not a calculation that I make in my day-to-day. Of course, one could even say that I don't want to make that calculation considering where I live, because it would just not be fun for me to make said calculations. But I don't, regardless. It's not something that it's not something that I care about. Bitch ass take us on. It's not. I don't think it's appropriate regardless. But this is wearing a Star of David necklace or whatever. It's a person that clearly went there to agitate. Am I dropping again? Frame skips? Okay. What took place? Are we okay? Hold on. Let's figure out if we're delayed again. Press 1. Press 1. Oh, there's a little bit of a delay. It's not terrible, but there's a little bit of a delay. A little bit, like 2-3 seconds. Anyway, moving on from that, as I was stating, here's Will Miniker also joking about the Israel situation. An all-time low for Israelis and an all-time high for the Palestinians since the Quinnipiac University poll began. Asking this question in 2001. My job, Chuck Schumer told Brett Stevens, is to keep the left pro-Israel. The job of a U.S. senator is to maintain support for a foreign country with his left-wing constituents, question mark, says Eli Clifton. It seems like, once again, Israel's biggest advocates are so horrible and fail the Riz test so aggressively. Some of the reasons why people are not as pro-Israel as they used to be is because of who is defending Israel. Okay? Make no mistake. It's because it's Amy Schumer, Chuck Schumer, Michael Rappaport, Rabbi Shmuley, who seemingly has gone dark in the last couple of months. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Like, I'm not even kidding when I say this. I think Zionist groups basically made the boss call to be like, Rabbi Shmuley, you have to stop appearing in public. You cannot be our, most loyal soldier. You are literally creating rabid anti-Zionists with the way you carry yourself and the way you speak. Everyone that hears you, like, he could go to Jewish camp, okay? He could go to like a Jewish basketball league at Jewish camp and talk about Israel, and every single young American Jew there would become anti-Zionist overnight. Like, in the immediate aftermath of the speech, they'd be like, yeah, I don't with this Israel stuff at all, actually. That guy fucks with Israel. I don't want to be a part of this. Chat, don't be weird. Christians have camp too. Yeah, exactly. Why do people always do Jewish camp? Some of you are not tapped in and oblivious to Jewish culture in America. So when I say certain things, you go, what? What are you saying? Like, yeah, no, that's just what it is. Like YMCA, okay? Anyway, is there Muslim camp in America? Yes, the Hasanabi broadcast, also known as the Hasanabi Madrasa. No, there aren't Muslim camps, dude. Are you kidding me? You think a country as Islamophobic as America would allow such a thing to happen? What are you, nuts? Yeah. Asal Rod says, I guess people don't like genocide. Now imagine what these results would be like if our entire political and media system didn't dehumanize Palestinians and whitewash Israel's crimes. Exactly. Every single thing you look at, every single new poll you look at that says, like, Americans really don't like Israel should always be matched with the endless amount of pro-Israel propaganda that you see in the media. Also, this was funny. Life hack for Mexicans in LA. Start waving this flag at your riots and all the politicians will support you. I mean, yeah, La Raza needs to start waving the Israeli flag and then they'll get unlimited protection. I mean, this is exactly what Tom Friedman wrote about it in his columns yesterday. He was bang on. Israelis, diaspora, Jewry, and friends of Israel everywhere need to understand that the way Israel is fighting the war in Gaza today is laying the groundwork for a fundamental recasting of how Israel and the Jews will be seen in the world over. It won't be good. Police cars and private security at synagogues and Jewish institutions will increasingly become the norm. Israel, instead of being seen by Jews as a safe haven for anti-Semitism, will be seen as a new engine generating it. Because it's the truth. For the record, of course, it's shocking that it's coming from Tom Friedman, right? But even Tom Friedman is finally coming to that conclusion, which is what I've been saying for years. And not just myself, but every anti-Zionist has been screaming this for years. But of course, because of the way that Israel was able to keep up this sophisticated sophisticated persuasion engine, okay? With advocacy groups, with moneyed interests, with lobbying, that I think Israeli groups, or at least like a lot of these advocacy groups that exist in America, okay, and are comprised entirely of Zionist Jews in America, did not foresee this kind of reaction and retaliation. Like, they got too comfortable, they got too arrogant, because there was no need to massage the narrative at all, because at the end of the day, the American government always has your back. And I don't think I don't think a lot of people understand how damaging this is. I don't think a lot of people understand how dangerous this is for American Jews in general. Saying Israelis would line up to immigrate to Australia and America rather than beckon their fellow Jews to come to Israel's way. That dystopian future is not here yet. But if you don't see its outlines gathering, you're deluding yourself. Okay, is this Tom Friedman or is this the Hasanabi broadcast? What's happening? That's crazy. That's crazy. It's like shocking. Okay, chatter, stop saying one, okay? Calm down. It's not funny anymore, okay? You're freaking me out. The delay is not 3 hours long, okay? You don't have a 3-hour delay. Shut up. Oh, God. Now that I said that, everyone's going to spam one. All right. Fortunately, more and more retired and reserve duty Israeli Air Force pilots, as well as retired Army security officers, are seeing this gathering storm and declaring they will not be silent or complicit in Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's ugly nihilistic policy in Gaza. Also, notice how Tom Friedman is isolating, one, not calling what Israel's doing an ethnic cleansing campaign, even though it is, and two, isolating Israeli society and decoupling Israeli society and its ambitions in Gaza from Benjamin Netanyahu's personal ambition and personal investment in the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, okay? And that in and of itself is of course silly. It does not address the problem at the heart of Israeli society. Israel is 100% a fascist government. Of course, Tom Friedman will never agree to that, or maybe he will agree to that 10 years down the line, but he won't agree to that right now. They have begun to urge Jews in America and elsewhere to speak up. SOS, save our ship, before the widening moral stain of Israel's military campaign in Gaza becomes irreversible. The moral stain of Israel's military campaign in Gaza has become irreversible. The only country where there is at least like a decent amount of support for Israel, all things considered, is the United States of America. Okay? In the global South always knew what the was going on with Israel. It's a settler colonial enterprise. Okay? It is a settler colonial enterprise. Everybody understood it. Western populations, on the other hand, as a direct result of the necessity for endless amounts of influence peddling, so that there was continued flow of weapons and commerce to Israel, so that Israel could continue conducting its affairs in the violent ways that it did, Western populations were not put on game. They were not aware of Israel's activities. Okay? Now, almost all of the Western nations, like when their populations are polled about their favorability for Israel, it is spectacularly bad. It is unimaginably bad. The only country where there is at least more support than other nations that are polled on this stuff, where there's still more sympathies with Israel, is the United States of America. And even then there is an unimaginable drop-off. No, Germany is not. No, guys. No, not even Germany. Not even Germany. Germany is the most supportive country in Europe, on the European continent. Germany is the most supportive, and UK as well. But their governments are incredibly supportive of Israel, but the population is not. Okay? There is a reason why Western liberal nations in Europe are desperately trying to create a pressure valve to make it seem as though they're not on board with Israel's ethnic cleansing campaign. It's not because of the moral consideration. Okay, they didn't like wake up one day and realize, oh, okay, there's a finite number of children that Israel was allowed to kill, and once it went over that number, all of a sudden we now think it's unconscionable. That's not what happened. Okay, what ended up happening was it was so unpopular in the eyes of the public that it became unignorable, and the politicians that want to, maintain some semblance of liberal democracy and protecting liberal democracy are now desperately flailing around and looking for an alternative vision, a way to say, yeah, we're not fully on board with Israel's actions, actually, and we are looking for ways of punishing Israel, as a matter of fact. But it's not real. It's not like a real punishment that they want to apply to Israel. Certainly not one that Israel is deserving of. But ultimately, that is what's going on. You've clearly never stepped foot inside of London. Wait, what? Government extremely pro, but not the people. Oh, no, you guys are talking. Okay, you guys were disagreeing with one another. By the way, as I said already, according to Canadians, this Canadian poll shows that 38% agree that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza, 26% disagree, and 36% are unsure. By the way, Rima Hassan's unlawful detention in Israeli prison also plays a big role in this, at least for the French side of the conversation. The silence of EU institutions over the unlawful detention and punitive conditions imposed on EU citizens, including MEP Rima Hassan, speaks volumes to the deep roots of Israelism and European institutional culture. Rima, French-Palestinian member of the European Parliament and refugee from 1948, now stands before an Israeli court in Al Ramle. She joined the Madleen flotilla, carrying symbolic aid to Gaza, her second attempt to return to her homeland. Israel offered her deportation and a 100-year ban. She refused to sign. She chose prison over submission. Rima is not just resisting, she's teaching us the true meaning of dignity, steadfastness, and the right of return. You need to understand something here, by the way. Rima Hassan is currently in an Israeli prison. Rima Hassan is not just any person. She is a member of the European Parliament. She is a French national from the France and Unbowed Party, Mélenchon's party, and a diplomat. Okay, she is a member of the European Parliament, and Israel currently has her locked in solitary confinement. Think about how insane that is. She was a part of the Gaza Freedom Flotilla. She was on the ship Madleen. As you guys know, Greta Thunberg left and went back to Sweden. They sent her back to Sweden, and those who refused to sign a piece of paper that basically stated that they were actually trying to illegally enter the country of Israel, because that's not what they were doing, by the way. That's not what they were doing. But Israel wanted them to sign this piece of paper, have been arrested. I'm on the Telegram channel. They took her out of solitary and back to Givon, but Tiago Avila remains in solitary. I don't know if Greta actually signed anything. I'm just simply saying that that's what they were trying to get them to do. And for the record, the boat, Madleen, was not seized, apprehended, or intercepted off of the Israeli coastline. The boat that had the British flag, sailing the British flag, the UK flag, was seized off of the coast of Egypt. So Israel, once again, violated international sovereignty. Israel violated the sovereignty of the UK, and Israel violated the sovereignty of Egypt on international waters off the coastline of Egypt. An act of piracy. Hasan Reactions is one of the best ones in the React channel.